everybody, and welcome to the Wise Women podcast. I am Wyn Abbott. I'm an author and an artist. I'm with my good friend Kathy Hodges from the Blue Butterfly. She's a natural intuitive and a Reiki master, and we are the Wise Women. And we are absolutely delighted today to have Bee Halygen, a Priestess of Cerridwen, with us to talk to us. So Bee is an author, and she is also the director and course tutor at the Temple of Awen in Glastobnbury. So
Temple of Cerridwen.
Temple of Cerridwen, yes. Sorry, Awen, yeah. Okay.
Awen, yeah.
So we're very happy to have you with us. And Cerridwen is such an important goddess, and so she's a goddess of inspiration. She's a keeper of the magical cauldron. But we would love you to tell us how you became involved with Cerridwen. How did she call you, and about your journey and how that's evolved.
So it's a really strange story, and it's a very long story, so I won't go too far with it. But in the 90s, I was in a coven, in a Wiccan coven, and if you know the Charge of the Goddess, you know that we call in Cerridwen, amongst other priestesses, amongst other goddesses. So I wasn't really aware of Cerridwen. She was just another name to me, and it was only when I moved to Wales in the 2000s that I had a dream one night that I stood in my new garden, and this figure just turned up, and she was in a dark cloak, and she turned around and she said, "Oh, by the way, you're mine." And I'm like, "Oh, hello, Hecate." And she went, Cerridwen. I'm like, "Who now?" And she's like, "Cerridwen, you'll learn all about me in the next few years." Well, that's probably almost 23 years ago that happened, and I learn new things about Cerridwen every day. She's very present. She's not a myth. She's not a legend. She's not from the past. She's very present in the here and now, and she's expanding exponentially. She really is. Everybody's talking about Cerridwen these days. The conference is doing something on Cerridwen. Everybody's doing Cerridwen now, which I love, because she deserves to be heard. Yeah. She has a lot to say.
She does. I mean, I first came across her actually through Taliesin, because when I first started working, the two names that came to me very strongly, completely different, was Persephone from Greek and Taliesin, and I just fell in love with the story of Taliesin, and so I did a lot of artwork and pottery around him, and so that's how I kind of got involved with Cerridwen, but through that story. That was a long time ago. But they're all kind of really rich, fantastic stories, aren't they?
They really are. And I mean, when you think it's only a half a page folio, which is probably our modern A4, and every sentence has something in it that is relevant, and it's relevant to today.
Yes.
The way that she uses magic, and she goes from natural magic to book magic, which we call high magic, and that all goes wrong because it's not her magic, and she hasn't asked for permission to do the magic for somebody. Teaches us witches, do not mess with magic for somebody who hasn't asked for it, Yeah. So every single sentence I find has something in it that's gold.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what though, although she is kind of well known, sometimes I thought I know a little bit about her, obviously not as much as you, which is why you're here, which is fantastic. I found her quite difficult to find out things about, and I remember just interestingly how these things find you. Just my own personal story is when I did my DNA, I had no idea what was going to come back. I had a feeling, and there was a lot of corroborating sort of evidence inside me of why I was drawn to stuff. What I didn't know was I had a lot of Welsh ancestry. My grandmother, when I looked into it, her grandfather moved from Wales to Durham because of the mining. Yeah, because something happened, and so Durham miners are well known, and they went up there for work. By the by. And then I got my DNA results, and it said I had a real good smattering of Welsh. And just as I found that out, I had another friend who sent me a picture that she'd drawn, which she said felt she was connected with me. And I thought, that looks really familiar. I looked at, because I do intuitive card readings, I looked at this Colette Baron Reid's Goddess Oracle, and the picture of Cerridwen was what she sent me. And I looked into it and I'm like, it's the Welsh thing. I just knew that there was some kind of ancient ancestry Welsh stuff in me. And I think these things find you as much as you looking for them.
Absolutely, and I think everybody is, I train people. We've got about 190 priestesses and priests of Cerridwen in the world now, and I probably would say that at least 2/3, if not 3/4, tell me that they heard this voice, they knew this person, they've dreamed of this being, that they saw this being in front of them, and they never realized who it was until they came to the training and they realized it was Cerridwen. So Cerridwen comes to you and she calls, and she always sees a talent. So different priestesses and priests do different things. They have different talents. And it's almost like she handpicks the people and says, you know what, this time we need more healers. Actually, now what we need is more singers. What we need now is more artists, people who actually do art with their hands. And she seems to look at the shift in the world and what the world needs, and then she's picking these people. So I have cohorts where I've got probably 3/4 of them are singers, or 3/4 of them are people who are doing art. So it's, she says, this lot now needs to go into the world. I feel like she's sending her troops, so to speak,
Yeah.
to fight whatever's going on.
I love that. I love that. I mean, one thing that you said a few minutes ago, which I hadn't really thought about, was about the fact that she was doing some magic without the other person asking her to do the magic, and of course it all went wrong in her eyes. It all changed, and I hadn't thought about that lesson, that this is a lesson not to do something without the permission of the other person. I mean, that, of course, when you said it out loud, it made complete sense, but it hadn't really clicked with me before.
Yeah.
Just
So
thinking big, because we're
yeah,
talking as if everybody knows Cerridwen, everybody knows what we're talking about. So,
yeah.
would you give us just a rundown of the famous story about Cerridwen and the cauldron and all of that? Because obviously I think you're one of the best placed people to do it, and you're here.
Yeah. So for me, first of all, she's not necessarily a Welsh goddess. She's a Brythonic Celtic goddess, and the Brythonic Celts came here to Britain, and they integrated with the people. And unfortunately, the Druids, as we know, in Anglesey, they came to die here. Before that, they roamed the world. Some people call them the lost tribe of Canaan. Some people call them, the lost people of Atlantis, or the last people of Atlantis. And she was their goddess. They travelled with her, and she travelled with them. And the story is that she is a very beautiful, wise woman. She has a very gentle man. It actually says that in the story, but then it meant that he was highborn. And they live at Penillyn, which is the head of the lake at Bala. And from there they basically rule the surrounding area. And she's well known for her medicines. She is a herb wise. How do we know that? Because in the end what she uses to do the magic is the herbs. So there's all these yeah, like detective. So she is very happy. She gives birth to a daughter, Criowi. Now, some people will tell the story differently. Everybody has their own version. This is my version. And some people say that Abakthi, her son, Morvran, is born at the same time. I believe that he is younger than his sister. Anyway, the Criowi is the most beautiful girl in Britain. It actually says that in the triads. They're very happy. She's, very popular. And then Cerridwen gives birth to Morvran, sea crow or sea raven, her son. And he is born with bristles on moles all around his body. And people immediately reject it, because for the Celtic people, being physically perfect was very important. And so for a longest time, as he grows up, she watches how people disrespect his son. The other children don't want to play with him. They don't want to speak to him. They're afraid of him. They reject him. And after a while, Cerridwen gets really angry, because she thinks, look, I look after all of you. I look after all your children. I don't judge, but you're judging my son. I'm going to do something about that. So she decides to ride to Dinas of Aron, the city of the pharaohs, which is interesting because it's about 30 miles from Bala Lake, in the middle of Wales. Why is it called the city of pharaohs? Well, there lives the Ferricht, which are the alchemists, and they open their doors to Cerridwen. and they give her a book in which is a spell to make her son. And this is an interesting bit. Not better looking, not more pleasant looking, but the most wise and knowledgeable person in the world. So she's not asking for good looks, she's asking for wisdom and knowledge, which for the Celts was also one of the things to aspire to. So then she writes back, and on the write back, apparently, she meets Morda, the old blind man, and Gwion, who is a young man who's leading Morda. He's, his helper. And she says to them, I've got a job for you. Do you fancy a year and a day? Interestingly, yeah. This is in the story from the 12th century, but the year and the day. Anyway, so do you fancy doing a job for me? And they go, yeah, what's in it for us? Dinner? Yeah, that's fine. So they go, and she gets the big cauldron out. Now, some people think it's the magical cauldron of plenty. Some people think it's the magical cauldron of death and rebirth. Depends who tells you the story. And they put lake water in there, and then she goes every day and she picks a particular plant and she puts it in the cauldron and she sings a spell song. Now, this is my version of the story. Sings her spell song, and the plants integrate. There's a reason why she has to sing the spell song, but that's a little bit of a secret. Anyway, so eventually, after a year and a day, Avakthi is Morvran's nickname, the utter darkness, people call him that. It's not a very nice name, but he sort of wears it proudly. He doesn't know what's happening, so after a year and a day, she takes him she tries to take him to the cauldron and says, here's your inspiration or whatever. But what actually happens is, as she's traveling to get him, the cauldron bubbles over. For whatever reason, there are several theories, and 3 drops go on the thumb of Gwion, who's been stirring the cauldron for this whole time at a particular rate. There's all sorts of magical knowledge in that particular rate, in a particular direction, and he puts it in his mouth and he sucks it and he gets the magic. And the moment he gets the magic, he also gets all the wisdom, and he realizes that Cerridwen knows that he is done this, and so he runs. And this is where the shamanic part of the story comes in, because they change into different animals. As she's chasing him, they go in through earth, through water, through air, and then in the end, he turns himself into seed, she becomes a black hen, and amongst millions of seeds or grains that are lying on a threshing platform, she finds Gwion, and she swallows him. And she says, right, you little beggar, I've got you. Now, what people try to sort of paint over is the fact that she is trying to annihilate him. Some people say it's part of the shamanic journey. He has to die to be reborn. All of that is true. 9 months later, she gives birth to another child. However, she's still determined to kill this child. People don't like that part of the story, but she still wants to kill this child. It's only when she gives birth to him and she sees how beautiful he is, and he has a radiant brow. So that's a very important part for the Celts, because that means he's a seer. He's born a seer and a magician. So she knows that she can't kill him. She falls in love with him. And her penance, as far as I'm concerned, and this is again part of my inflection on the story, is that she knows she can't keep him. She knows that this magical child has to go into the human world because he is an offering or a sacrifice, whichever way you see it. And she makes sure that he's well protected by a magical crane bag, and she sends him into the waters, and he sort of drifts down the lake into the river and arrives at the weir of Elvin. So that's the story of Cerridwen and her son. And I think it's a very important story, but like I said, in that story there are so many things that we then can expand on, learn from, and whatever, that it's and it's a story that was written down by the monks because they didn't want it getting lost.
Yeah, that's important as well, that they actually didn't want it to get lost. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that was the case with so many of the ancient stories, not just in Europe and UK, but across the waters as well. Whereas it was the Christian monks that actually wrote down the stories, which before had only been passed down verbally. So, I mean, we don't know even what stories have been lost, but I mean, I just love the story, the story element, and it's when you start to break it down, there is so much symbolism and meaning behind it, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
The first thing that came to me, sorry to interrupt, was all the aspects of that story that can happen in a different way in all of our lives, you know.
It does
And
happen. It does happen
yeah,
to all of us.
and
Yeah.
and one of the things that just came up for me was like infanticide, because I'm a real history geek as well, and that's happened all the way through history. Whether it was exposing babies that were deformed, you know, back in ancient times in the Greek world, Sparta, you know, the things that they did there, and also in Victorian times, girls getting pregnant out of wedlock and infanticide happened. And often it happened because there was no other way. So a lot of this as well is about the agency of women, I think, and that feminine rights, you know, that's been squashed really for many generations. And now a lot of these goddesses are coming back. And that was just an example, the infanticide bit. Just to remind us how powerful we can be, and there are different ways to do things.
Absolutely. And, you know, it was really interesting. I don't know if you watched the Eurovision this year, because there was a song by, let me get this straight, Croatia. And I don't know if you saw it, because they had these amazing tattoos in their faces. And the whole song was about the children that would be taken by the Ottomans and taken into harems, and goddess knows done with them. And what they did is they tattooed the children in order for with Christian crosses and symbols, in order for the Ottoman Turks not to take them, because they wouldn't take children that had the cross on them. And you know, what women have done to protect their children from harm, you know, is I see this every day at school when children get bullied. You know, I was a teacher until 2011. You know, mothers will do anything to protect their children. And, you know, I think in a way, and I say this and people really get across with me, but unless you are a mother, and I please forgive me for saying that, I'm not trying to be controversial, you do not know what it's like to love.
Yeah.
And you would do to protect your child.
100%. Yeah, I get that. I'm sure Wynne does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, I've got 3 boys, and yeah, so it's a different. It's something that's difficult to put into words, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, it's not.
Well, it's primeval. It really, isn't it? It's primeval. Yeah.
It certainly is, yeah. It's in the limbic brain, you know, in our, what do you call it, crocodile brain or dinosaur brain.
Yeah.
But most women who have a healthy relationship to themselves, to their offspring, will do anything to protect their children, to the point where they will kill them. I mean, we know at this moment of time in the world, women are killing their children for mercy. You know, they're killing them because they're afraid that the children will fall into the hands of somebody who will harm them. And you know, I've given that a lot of thought. It's a horrific idea, but if it was me, what would I do? You know.
Well, like they say, it's a story as old as time.
Yeah, and also I mean, we read a story and we take it at face value. You know, person killing their children, whatever, you know, but what you're talking about is the underlying story that we're not seeing and that we're not reading about, and that's been something that has followed us throughout history, hasn't it? That we are fed a story, but we're not always told what led to it and why, and when you start to see and we can see it certainly with women and how women were treated and the witchcraft trials and all sorts of things, you know, I mean, that goes back and back, that thread, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Leaning down just now, you'll know if you've watched any of our podcasts that at some point, no matter where she is, in the house or the garden, my cat Mabin turns up. And she just did, and she just opened the door, nearly knocked the other chair over. So that's why I was bending down. Because if I don't stroke her and say hello, she'll do worse stuff. So that's what I'm doing.
All right, no worries.
Right. So, Bee, also, I mean, you know, it's really great to have you talking about it, because you know so much more about Cerridwen. Can you tell us a bit about your temple, your courses, and even your book? Because you've written a book, haven't you?
So yeah, the book was so I'm a big fan of collaboration, right? I don't like people, pretending that they know everything about something. I love collaboration. I love collaboration with my students, and what we did is they have certain tasks during the training. Some of them write poetry, some of them write songs, some of them do storytelling. Like I said, whatever their talent that they want to develop, from a bardic point of view. And the bards were the wisdom keepers, yeah. So all the poetry that you hear about Cerridwen, all we know about Cerridwen is from poetry that was written by the bards. There's certain the Spoils of Anun is another one. So we decided that we were going to amalgamate this book, and I was going to write the introduction for the chapters from what we do on the training, and then we would give examples from students. And we're now this is the second edition coming out. We want to include some of the art that is in the temple now. So 2003, we decided that we needed our own space, we needed our own sanctuary. There were more and more people coming into town, working with Cerridwen, and we were outgrowing the premises where we were before. And so we decided to open our own temple. And at first it really was just about a home for the priestesses and priests that are in Avalon and that are coming into Avalon. So we've got people coming in from all over the world. And it's really amazing, any day that you get to the temple, you have somebody from the Netherlands, somebody from Norway, somebody from Uganda, somebody from Mexico, and it's like they're all sisters, and I just love that. So, but the temple then, we also felt that there needed to be a place in Avalon where people could come for about, we open from 12 till 3 to the public, who can come and sit and basically tell us what's going on with them. There are several temples in Glastonbury, but most of them are meditative temples. People can't really talk there. So what we do is we sit down and we listen. Yeah, we call it the sacred listening. We listen to people, and they just pour out everything. It doesn't matter what the topic is, and they feel safe there. And there's always a priestess or two that holds them. We make them a nice cup of tea. We sit them down. The candles are on, the incense are on, and then they just let go.
So kind of a cleansing ritual before renewal, letting go before something can grow. Yeah.
Yeah. And very often it's stuff that they've been carrying for years, and it's
Cool.
all came out. COVID was a big catalyst for a lot of people. A lot of people were looking at their lives because, they were basically being told that they were going to die. We're all going to die. And so a lot of people faced their own mortality, and a lot of people realized that they had things in their life that they needed to let go of. They needed to change their life. They needed to do things differently. And this is Cerridwen, transformation and change. Yeah, it's not just inspiration, it's transformation, change, it's manifestation, dreaming of a life that you want to build. That's all that she does for us. And I love it when people come back and say, oh, you know what, I said to you I wanted to do this and this, or I wanted to go there and there. I actually did it. It happened. It just suddenly happened. I'm like, yeah. Cerridwen just makes things happen. I mean, I'm probably a little bit biased, but I believe that she, if it's meant for you, she will get it done. If you ask her something, be specific, details, yeah. Don't ask for a boyfriend and then move 300 miles down the road later, 2 days later. But, you can ask her for what you need. And she'll say, yeah, that's doable. Or she'll say, that's not in your cards right now, And she's very clear about that. So, yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, I have personal experience of working with you, Bee, when I was going through a difficult time after my mother died. So, I mean, I can vouch for that. That space felt very healing and safe and transformative. But the other thing I wanted to say was about the poems, because I love the fact that people are writing poems and that you're publishing that. Because when we look at the ancient bards, they didn't write poetry just for entertainment. They were the records. They had to remember so much, and their studying was long and deep. And so the poems had much more of a meaning than just entertainment. I mean, whilst they may well have entertained, it was much more than that. I mean, when I studied poetry at school, I kind of liked it, but I didn't really understand it. It's only when you start to look back that it actually had a very deep significance in life. And later on, obviously, that they were all passed down verbally until later on that the Christian scribes wrote them down. But they're quite strong, meaningful, aren't they?
Yeah, they're basically wisdom in a cup, because you don't have to read a long story. You can get the whole story in maybe 12 lines sort of thing. So it really is that. And also what I always think is the bards sang their poems, and that was a really big thing. And I love the fact, we have a priest at this moment of time who is really into creating songs. We have lots of song creators, but he's very special at the moment, and he creates these songs that we can sing together, and they're really meaningful. And I love singing, right? I love singing, and I've always been told not to sing because my voice was ish.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah,
How you get told these things, that you can't do that, don't do that, or some things that I wanted to do when I was younger, well, won't make a living doing that, or it's because the way civilization's been for quite a while now is very rigid. And like when you were saying about the poetry at school, well, it was kind of just shoved at us. There was a bored English teacher stood at the front of the room, and then you've got this book and you're like, you read that line, and then they dissect it without any feeling.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's where it's one of the examples. Wynne and I both are very strong on this, is this losing this contact with our ancestors. It's always there, and it's always been fighting to come out. But for a while, it was all really pushed aside, and that's why everybody started to lose their way. And look what's happening now,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're absolutely right, that when people lose, because poetry, singing, all of that is a path to the soul. And if you don't forge artists create with their soul. They don't create with their eyes or their brain, they create with their soul. And what comes out is absolute beauty. And so what really was important for us, as we went along, the Cerridwen training had offshoots suddenly. So we have a place where we have people that train to become death priestesses. And we call them deliberately death priestesses, not death doulas, not sacred celebrants or anything like that. We call them death priestesses because that's exactly what they are. They go from diagnosis all the way past death, into family, with a family. But it takes time to train people like that. I know nowadays some people can do it in 2 weeks, weekends. We do a whole year. Then we have the wheel of the bards. So one of our lovely ladies who is a Gaelic speaker, and she's a university professor, and she's created this wheel of the bards. So she does poetry and music with people, and we're actually going to create a CD soon. I mean, oh gosh, that's going to be fun. But you know what I mean? It's expanding. It's like a mandala almost. It's expanding. Different people are taking on different things. We have scent priestesses, not mirror force, proper scent priestesses who love to create sprays for healing. They create oils, they create all sorts. That's their passion, right? And then we have people who are doing sound, so sound healing. They are going on to learn more about how to use. We use a lot of crystal bowls, how sound heals people, and that's part of our healing work that we do in the temple. So there's this expansion, and everybody, like I said, Cerridwen sends these people to us, and they say this person is going to be doing this. Even if they don't know they're going to be doing that right now, 2 years later they know they're doing it. So it's amazing what has expanded. And I'm just standing there with my mouth open going, I can't believe this is happening, And every time somebody steps forward, we now have 3 crystal healers who are going to create a crystal healing course. It's not going to be a 5-minute healing course. It's going to be a really deep, year-long journey with healing crystals. To me, that is a wonderful gift. I know you could do crystal healer accredited for a day in gateways here but down the road, but that doesn't make you a crystal healer. It doesn't make you understand what crystals do for you. So I really believe that when you are called to do something, when it is your heart's desire, when your soul loves it, you're going to be the best person doing it.
I think that the key thing that you've said several times there is about the soul, because it is about that. It's the calling of the soul, and it's that trust. When you said about artists and poet comes from the soul, that is true. I mean, and when I paint, I never know what I'm going to paint. I just start with a blank canvas. When I write, I start with a blank piece of paper and then let it emerge. And I think that is about really trusting. And it's the same with the healing, whether they're going to be a death priestess or a crystal healer or whatever. It's that healing isn't that choice isn't. I don't think it's a mental choice.
Not conscious.
Choice.
Yeah, it's not conscious at all. It just is.
It's soul that's calling.
Yeah.
I understand completely what you're saying, Bee, there. It's absolutely spot on.
Yeah. And I mean, we all three, I think, have this connection with our soul and our soul. I mean, don't get me wrong. What I like to do, this is if I had my way, is sit somewhere in Spain, drink some lovely sangria and put my feet up. And Cerridwen says, that's a lovely idea, Bee. And now, please, we need to do the advert for this. We need to create this ceremony. We need get on with it.
I love it. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone you ask who works with Cerridwen in our circle, will tell you the same. We get our marching orders. She says, I'm sorry, you're needed in the world right now. And we all need it. It doesn't matter what goddess people follow, whether they call themselves priestesses. Anyone who's connected with any kind of divine being is so needed in the world right now. It's ridiculous.
Definitely. And that is all part of coming back to our connectedness, isn't it? We are connected, soul connected to so many energies and so many light beings and goddesses, whatever you want to call them. And it's just being open to that, because we were told for so many years, oh, that's woo-woo. That's not, you've got to be a Christian, otherwise you're wrong, basically. And we've got to follow this, the T. We've got to stick to this. This is how you do it. And it's just wonderful that people are now coming back to believing that just doesn't feel right for me. For whatever reason, when I started to wake up, or whatever you want to call it, remember who I was, it was just, that has always felt right over there, but everybody told me it wasn't. So what is this? Why is this bloke, Archangel Michael? I didn't even know who it was. Why is he turning up and just like talking to me in the shower? I thought it was leaving marbles. But he's funny. I know, he's funny, he's light, it was just like, I'm here I am, and you know what? When I think about him, I see him as a combination of Heath Ledger and Patrick Swayze. So I am quite happy that he turned up, not necessarily in the shower, but okay. But do you know what I mean? It's just like, it was like a revelation, and also I didn't question it. It was like, okay, and that is who always turns up for me when I need help, but also who pushes me on, like you just said, to do things like, I am really knackered today. I've had this going on and that going on. The last thing I want to do is put an intuitive guidance post on my page for other people when my mind is X, Y, and Zing. And it's like, well, that's what you're here for, so crack on. And it's literally like he's standing there, like going, looking at me like this and going, and he's so funny, he makes me laugh. Yeah. And by the end of it, every time, whether it's intuitive guidance that I'm writing for my page or it's a client coming to see me, I feel better afterwards. Yeah. For whatever reason. So what I'm saying is, go with this. Although it might be difficult at the start, if you are led somewhere, then follow it, because it's worth the challenge. I mean, I have family and friends who, just like, oh, it's just Kathy's thing. And that's fine. That's how they feel. Kathy's going to carry on doing her thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got two sisters who are very straight, right? And my older sister is lovely, but she's very, disgusted at Tunbridge Wells. And if anybody knows what that means, she's very vibrant. She's like, And he used to take me out to the RHS flower show. It was our, Chelsea Flower Show was our thing. We made a whole weekend of that. The moment I had my tattoo on my head, she said, "Sorry, can't take you anymore. I can't introduce you to any of my friends. You're too crazy. You're too mad." And she said, I said, "Oh, I'll wear a hat." And she said, "No, eventually you'll take it off and people will see it. I don't want to be associated with that." And quite frankly, it's okay for her to say that because that's her choice. It is her choice that she feels what I do is not her cup of tea. And when I had it done, my husband said to me, 2016, because I was still working in mainstream and things like that, and he said to me, "Bee, you're never going to get another job, and people are going to really be nasty to you because you're a woman with a tattoo on your head."
Worried about you, wasn't he? Really, he was
He
worried.
was.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was. He was
Yeah.
very worried about it.
bless him.
And then, in the last 10 years that I've had it, I've never had any difficulties. I nearly got lynched in M&S because the lady that was serving me was asking me all these questions about why I had this on my head while there's a queue of 50 people going. And I was like, "I'll tell you about it later. Let me go before they kill me." But it's, I've honestly, I was like, "Please don't." But I've never had any problems with it. I have had people recognizing what it is and asking me about the goddess temple and asking me about the goddess, which is the whole reason why we have
Yeah.
the tattoo.
Yeah.
We have to be seen in the world as followers of the goddess, and people have to be proud to be priestesses in the world, because otherwise, what's the point of doing what you're doing?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not going to reach the right people if you don't.
I mean, one thing that you reminded me about your sister when my children were younger. I mean, I had things with feathers on and sticks and drums and all sorts of around that. And I came in one day and everything had gone. And I said, "Where's all my things? Where are all my feathers?" And Adam said, "Oh, I hid them because my friends were coming round. I don't want them to think you're really weird." And he'd hidden them all. I mean, it was only about 14 at the time, and it was. But I never forget it. It was like, okay,
Yeah, and I understand that.
yeah,
People don't want to be judged by your crazy little sister.
yeah,
But I will say, until probably early 2000s, when I was in Wales, people who were pagan and who had pagan images at their walls or in their homes. I have one friend, the social worker or whatever, they had not social worker, the people that visit you after you've had a baby to make sure you and
Health visitor.
health visitor, that's a bugger, not social worker, health visitor. I never had that. And she reported them, and there was hell to pay, and they were talking about taking the children away because they were devil.
wow,
But that was still, it does still happen. Yeah. And so it's really hard to be loud and proud as a pagan. Still to this day, Kathy, if you say you're a witch, there are people who are thinking, "Where's the matches?"
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And a lot of people that know me, are like, "God, few years ago, you wouldn't have survived very long." And I just say, I'm glad it's not a few years ago then, because here I am.
Yeah.
But I will say the bad news is that there was a proposal in the Scottish Parliament that they wanted to bring back the 1952 Fraudulent Medium Act, because the amount of people that are now offering things, and this is where I'm a little bit worried about when we talk about, who is going to be doing these healings, who's going to be doing, because yourself, if you believe that you can heal, you must also be aware that you could harm if you don't know what the heck you're doing.
Of course.
There's a big discussion now about, do we need certified courses? Do we need healings? I mean, I know the insurance people now, if you are a holistic healer, you have to show them certificates from organizations,
I've been through that.
Yeah, exactly that. And in a way, it's good. I mean, some people say it feeds into patriarchy, but you wouldn't want somebody operating on you that hasn't got a certificate from a university to say that they're a surgeon, would you? So
it's very difficult, and anybody can kind of set themselves up as whatever, you know, but you and I and Wynne, I'm sure we have got this sense where we would know if somebody was like a charlatan or somebody who had the best intentions really wasn't doing good work. I mean, it's like they've got, you know, it can happen. Whatever you think about, I saw something on the news the other day about people that help with baby sleeping or something. That's a thing that's been going on at the moment. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that's an example of anybody can set themselves up as an expert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can.
Yeah. And it is dangerous. It can be dangerous, you know, because sometimes, you know, you say about intuitive healing, and I'm sure you're familiar with Caroline Myss, who's the American is an intuitive, a medical intuitive.
Yeah.
You can actually spot cancer as a shadow in the body.
I've heard about, I don't know much about her, but yeah.
But I think any healer, when they do hands-on healing or crystal healing or whatever, when they see something in the body, I mean, I certainly do, is say to the person, you know what, I felt something or I saw something, might not be anything, but it might be an idea to go and see your GP and have a chat with them about it, yeah?
That's part of your responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Bee, what... If anybody wants to contact you or to enroll on one of your courses, they can get that information via your website, yes?
That's right, yeah.
Because we'll put all those links on. So that would be.
When you know what we always forget to say that we're supposed to say, not far in. Please subscribe. Conversations that we love the conversations, and we're like, you know, I feel like you're both sitting in here with me, and I'm not doing a podcast or you know, an episode on our YouTube channel, and we just forget.
I know.
Subscribe and like. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, the thing is, I always think if you really like something, you know what to do these days, you know. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like and subscribe. This is great. I've watched them all and they're brilliant. So please do.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have come. So
thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
And at the start, we were talking about the power of the voice of the wise women, of the mature women that have life experience behind them. And I feel that I'm sitting, like you said, in a circle of like-minded women who just want the world to be a little bit of a better place, a safe space for everybody to live in.
Good with me, yeah. Yes.
Definitely. Well,
exactly.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure we could keep talking for hours with Bee, couldn't
absolutely.
we? But I'm sure we've all got other things we need to do as well. Otherwise, we could be. I'll shut the door, put my feet up, and we'll get some sangria, and then we'll have a good old chat.
Day drinking is a thing. Yeah, it's great.
I love a day drink. I have a glass of red wine every night. Whatever people might think, I don't care. It's my thing. I love it. When the sun's setting, especially in the winter or in the autumn, I love the dawn and the dusk. And I think that's a big thing with people like us, shall we say. And those times are special. And my red wine is like, a bit like when the birdies are singing when they go to sleep, is like, I've done my bit today. I've had a great day. I've had a terrible day, whatever it is, but I've survived. This is my treat. So red wine, sangria, whatever you poison, that's fine with us. But thank you so much, Bee. We have so much enjoyed this. It's been fabulous. And it's amazing how you start with a conversation and it goes all over the place, which it's supposed to.
That happens with me a lot. People say, have you ever been checked for ADHD? No, and I don't want to be either. I love the way I am. I love that we can open up and talk about all these things as women. You know, I enjoy these sort of things. These are my kind of times. And also, a glass of red wine a day keeps the doctor away.
And I'm 100% sure I'm ADHD as well. But no, I'm not having a test because it's just me. In my day, when I was young, if I've got to the age of 59, and I haven't had a test and I'm surviving, thank you very much. I'll just use that as my gift. That's what I say.
And I think sometimes it is a gift for us, certainly. We are multitasking, mature, powerful women. I love it.
But also I would say as well, I suppose, because this is a podcast and we're talking to lots of people, if people who do have issues with ADHD or anything else, you know, I'm not saying that it's not difficult. We've all had our struggles in life in different ways. What I'm saying is, for me, I've learned to embrace it as much as I can. Now, thank you very much, Bee.
You're
Fantastic
very welcome.
to come and talk to us, and I'm sure we'll be having another conversation. I've just got a feeling about that. But
I had that feeling just now as well.
and then just to talk about really, Wynne, what we're going to be talking about next time. And we are going to be talking about sacred rites, about special ceremonies and rituals, etc., down through the ages and back up again. Death, birth, death. We've got a bit of a problem with our relationship with death generally across the world, apart from some cultures that have been kicking about for a long time that haven't been corrupted, basically, by those who thought they knew better. I'm not going to get on my soapbox about that because I'll be talking about it forever when I win. But we, especially in the West, have a very bad relationship with death. So sacred rites that we're going to talk about, it's going to open all of that up, and how people dealt with it, how they dealt with their grief and all the rest of it, and what they did to celebrate that person's life and then be able gradually in their own time to move on. We've lost a bit of that. And also birth. One of the important things as well, we were talking earlier, Wim, weren't we? Menstruation. Rites about menstruation and cycles and all those sorts of things that we don't honour. They are the stepping stones of life and death. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in our next podcast. And we are very excited, aren't we, Wynne? Because we always are.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great. And, you talking about the death goddesses before, death priestesses, sorry. Yeah, and I think that there's an awful lot to unpick with that, and how we've lost so much of the sacred as we have moved through time, and it's about reconnecting that sacred again, because what's it all about? It's about life and death, isn't it? That's what we're here for. So yes. It's so we've got to embrace all of it. And so, yes, that's what it's all about.
It'll come for us all at one point. That's the one sure thing in life. We're going to die.
Yes.
Death and taxes.
Yeah.
Death and taxes. Two sure things. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Bee. And thank you very much, Kathy. That's been, I think that's been fascinating. And I know that you all will be. So we will see you next time for the Sacred Rites. But please, take a look on the Facebook page for the Temple of Cerridwen. Take a look on the website, and if you're in Glastonbury, go and visit them. Better still, go and visit them.
Free tea.
Am I right? It's now, you've now called the alleyway Diagon Alley.
Yes, we call it that, yeah. And it's intriguing. A lot of people, they love it.
Yeah.
So I have people taking pictures of themselves underneath a sign. They don't come into the temple, but they take pictures of themselves. It's a bit like Hollywood sign.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Excellent.
Spreading the word.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And it's goodbye from me, goodbye from Kathy, and goodbye from me. Bye.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.